Hey guys, what's going on? Wanted to record yet another video. Here's another passage from this book on evangelism by Max Stiles that I just want to read to communicate yet again our point as a congregation of living sent and building this culture for us. I'd like to start on page 65 if you have your book. It says, "A real high point. Recently, I was at High Point Baptist Church in Austin, Texas," Mac writes. "The pastor, Juan, had asked me to do a seminar on developing a culture of evangelism. I talked and people asked questions. Then someone asked an elephant in the room type of question. And they said, many Vietnamese are moving into the community around our church. What is the church going to do to reach out to them?" On the one hand, this was a wonderful question. A member had recognized that she had the privilege and responsibility to reach out with the gospel, and she saw an opportunity to do it. On the other hand, the way the question was phrased seemed to imply that reaching out was the responsibility of the church, not the person who had noticed the opportunity. But a culture of evangelism is grassroots, not top-down. In a culture of evangelism, people understand that the main task of the church is to be the church. We've already seen that church practices are a witness in and of themselves. Certainly, the church supports and prays for outreach and evangelistic opportunities, but the church's role is not to run programs. The church should cultivate a culture of evangelism. The members are sent out from the church to do evangelism. I know this may seem a bit picky, but it's really important. If you don't get this right, you can subvert the church or be wrongly angry with church leadership. Here's how I responded to the question at High Point. It's really not the best thing for the church to set up programs for Vietnamese outreach, but rather for you to think how you can reach out. I would recommend you learn something about the Vietnamese culture, maybe by learning some greetings in Vietnamese, trying their food, and learning about the struggles they face living in a majority culture. Reach out and invite the friends you make to come with you to your homes, a small group Bible study, or church. Then perhaps some of you should even think of moving into the Vietnamese community with the purpose of commending the gospel among that community. I was met with blank stares. But there was a great relief on the face of Pastor Juan, who was grateful that I had not just single-handedly set up an outreach program for him to run. Then I added, "And when you bring your friend from the community into the church, everyone is on game. You are all reaching out." That's a culture of evangelism. It's not just about being friendly, though that needs to happen, but having a deep awareness that we are in this together. In a healthy church, visitors see the gospel present in all we do. That's why we sing the word, pray the word, preach the word. We want people to hear the gospel in the service. And when we practice the sacraments, we want them to see the gospel and hear it again as we explain what's happening. As members live out the gospel comes out of us. That's a sketch of a culture of evangelism at work. I know it's a bit radical, and I didn't even suggest they enroll their kids in the local school with the Vietnamese kids. Some might accuse me of not caring for the Vietnamese community because I told High Point Church not to set up a church-sponsored outreach. But I would argue that the best way to care for that community, or any community, is to give them the gospel so they can come to faith. That goal is best served by the witness of a church that has a culture of evangelism, by members making friends with Vietnamese people with whom they can share the gospel. This approach has a far greater impact than a church program for clothing distribution, daycare, going door to door, bringing in a kiddie carnival, or any other of the various good-hearted things churches do. In one sense, all churches have a culture of evangelism of one kind or another. I love this point. Even churches that reject evangelism have a culture of evangelism, though an unbiblical one. The question is not, do we have a culture of evangelism, but is our culture of evangelism sick or healthy? I would like to make the case that the biggest reason churches' evangelism cultures are sick is not that we have a fear of man or that we don't have the right strategy or method of evangelism, as big as those issues may be, but that we do not understand the church. And church family, yet again, this is why we're going to be studying the book. We want to hear these things together. We want you to attend from 9:30 to 10:30 every Sunday morning as one of our elders will lead a discussion in this book. We're going to keep the same pace as a congregation, working through this book through the month of July and August. There's going to be multiple classes, same book though. So use this time as an opportunity. Yet again, breakfast every Sunday morning from 8:45 to 9:30, 9:30 to 10:30 Sunday school, 10:50 to 11:50 our regular church service. So we'll see you then. Get the book, jump into it, join in with our vision. Love you guys. Take care.